This is the between. I'm tentatively calling the series Night Visitors now. I don't know if that's going to stick. That's what it's called on YouTube currently. But in any case, we are on part 4. Welcome back, everyone. I want to do a quick recap. Let's just do Hunter recap by condition. We got a few conditions on the table now. So Mr. Nelson is still the most be conditioned with Shaken, Drained, and the Sons of Another World. I think whenever you get ready to shake Shaken, Mr. Nelson, you could probably shake Drained as well. It feels like it's probably time to let that one go. So just keep that in mind. For Green, we have Fear of Falling and Shocked. For Mr. Quinn, we have Intrigued by Mr. Taloford. I'd like to see where that goes. And then for Mr. Taloford, we have Marked by the Lurker. I'd like to see where that goes as well. Also, The Sons of Another World for Mr. Nelson is really, really intriguing. Like all three of you have like very, very interesting narrative conditions. And I'm curious to see where that goes. In terms of the threats, we have 3 active threats: the St. James's Street Ghost, the Limehouse Lurker, and the Pinkerton. A quick question. Oh, I never filled out the Pinkerton's little sheet thing. I'll try to do that first thing. We can take a break. So the St. James's Street Ghost, we have this ongoing thing that's been going on for a bit. You currently have a question available to you, which is, how can we get this ghost to pass on to the next world? Answering the question lets you resolve the threat by performing a quieting ritual. You currently have 5 clues toward answering that question, which is a decent amount. It puts you at a -1 on the roll, but so maybe 1 or 2 more would get you there pretty well. We saw a lot with that one last time, though. That one is getting really, really anxious because essentially the Beals tried to take matters into their own hands, and that could have been a disaster, but Mr. Taloford made sure the disaster was fairly contained. And so that's just know that the ghost wants to leave 18 St. James's Street. That much is clear. And so the quicker you take care of that, probably the better. The Limehouse Lurker. We have 1 question right now. We know it's a young vampire. And the question is, what was the vampire's home life like? It opens up the opportunity to let you resolve the threat by luring it to a scene reminiscent of its home life. You recreate the scene for the vampire and then destroy it or make arrangements for it to feed. You currently have 3 clues available towards this complexity 4 question. I believe it's complexity 4. Let me take a look, confirm that. It is indeed. So that's where that stands. And then the Pinkerton. We have 1 clue right now on the Pinkerton. The Pinkerton's the basic deal with the Pinkerton is they are there trying to get Mr. Nelson to go back to the States, but also they're there running some kind of scheme, some kind of criminal enterprise in London. And the question basically is, what's the side hustle that they're doing? And it unlocks the opportunity to resolve the threat by basically confronting them and saying, if you don't leave London, we're going to tell your employer what you're up to. So that's basically that, because Pinkertons are supposed to be like, on the up and up, right? And so we have 1 clue towards that currently, and that is a complexity 4. I'll fill all that in. I'll go on break again. I wonder if we have a minute. 1 big kind of interesting plot point that I'm curious about exploring, maybe not, it might be kind of like behind the scenes stuff, I don't know yet. It might be stuff to do with the mastermind, but we have this like one of the 30 pieces of silver, which was in the hands of one of the characters and then got into the hands of a coin dealer called Mr. Stewart, who left. He's treating it like the precious right now, and he left, and we don't really know what's going to happen with that, but it was sort of implied that Theodora is super interested in this, and so I think there's going to be a mastermind connection. I don't know. But speaking of the mastermind, we have 5 mastermind clues, which puts us about 1/3 of the way there towards the final confrontation with Theodora. And it's also a threshold level, which I have not revealed yet, but big things will happen because of that. Any other questions or things we need to be reminded of before we begin? All right, then. We'll go to the phase switcher, flip over to the day. We have 3 active threats, so I will not be presenting a new one. Lucky you. So we'll do regular scenes. Let's go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing. I'll remind you that the day phase is for having vulnerable scenes with other characters in order to clear conditions, continuing the investigation, working on some of your dawn questions. Maybe you have a scene that implicates your dawn question, just showing us your life in Hargrave House or in the city of London. It's also acceptable. So let's just go around the table. I'm going to start, let's go in reverse order. Mr. Taloford, what do you think for today?
So I think I'm going to go try to figure out what's going on with that ghost, since that's kind of my jam currently.
Yeah, you're pretty locked into that one right now.
Yeah.
Julius can't come with you today.
Damn it. I was hoping for a buddy comedy.
No, that story is on pause until the next night phase, but yeah. That sounds good. Mr. Quinn, what do you think?
I don't know. I think I actually want to pursue this piece of silver situation. So I want to go try and find Mr. Stewart.
Oh, okay, interesting. We'll do that. And Green.
That fits with what Green is attempting to do, because they really want to get back on Mr. Quinn's good side, because they were responsible for the whole dinner party fiasco. So whatever Mr. Quinn needs, Green is definitely on board, and also vulnerable.
Yeah, I like it. Maybe a vulnerable scene with the two of you, maybe on the way, would be pretty interesting. I think, just to kind of follow up on that something of a disaster of a dinner party. So, and Mr. Nelson.
Equally in Mr. Quinn's bad graces, I think Hank would also like to help out with some of that, since he's also responsible for the dinner party and then also didn't show up. So
okay, sounds good to me. So you are also, so everyone's going to Mr. Stewart's, it sounds like. Is that the plan?
Well, not Taloford, but yeah.
Yeah, not Taloford. Yeah, not Taloford, but thank you. Okay. Let's start with this trip to Mr. Stewart's then. I think that I would like to probably frame it up so that Green and Mr. Quinn are in a hansom cab on the way over, and maybe Mr. Nelson joins later, if that's okay. Let's just have the scene with the two of you in the cab. You know, these cabs are really small. You sit like really, I mean, it's the definition of intimate. You are like there. It is a kind of a drizzly day, if I'm being honest.
I think Green brought some accessoire, maybe like a bracelet. I think that they had like some special, I don't know what metal would Mr. Quinn like. Gold, silver, platinum.
I think gold.
Yeah, so a gold bracelet that they kind of only bring out for like special occasions, and I think they say something like, "Mr. Quinn, I thought today would be a perfect day for this," and takes out again like a beautiful little satchel, like a beautiful small bag, this golden bracelet. Are you okay with wearing it today? I think it complements all your the rest of your outfit.
It does not feel like a beautiful day, but you always know how to cheer me up, Green. Extend my wrist.
It will be much better than yesterday. You will see. And I think very slowly, like they slide it over the hand, kind of remaining their hand remaining on Mr. Quinn's wrist for a moment too long. Then, we will definitely get back this ridiculous coin, and we will. Whatever happens, I think this man will regret that they angered you in this way.
I'm going to just like take your hand in mine and just like gently pat it and say, Green, the only person to blame in this situation is that horrible Mr. Stewart. I do not like that man. I feel awful for his poor wife. Worry not. I know that together we will solve the problem.
If you must know, I'm still shaking from all that happened yesterday, and in front of that lady. It's. I hope you were able to calm her down after I had to leave so suddenly because of this awful murder.
You know, that lady's very peculiar. I think she enjoyed it.
You think? Well, but you do like mysterious women, don't you?
I mean, I like all women, Green. You know that. She did invite us to a party.
Oh. Are you going?
Yes, I think it's only polite to accept after the disaster of last night, so.
Oh, I know just the thing you have to wear. It's going to. She always wears this sapphire, and I have just the right idea for something that will impress her.
Is it one of the pieces you've made?
Yes, of course. I'm finishing. I'm going to make a jacket. It's going to be beautiful. I assure you.
Wonderful. Well, the party's not for a few days, I guess, so we'll just, you have time to finish it, and for now, I guess we'll just focus on this awful Mr. Stewart and getting your coin back.
I feel like we've probably triggered the vulnerable move at this point. Do either of you have a condition you think you're clearing here? Or no, is anyone doing their vice even?
Oh, we have to see that. Yeah, let's see.
Flogging? Oh, I don't know.
A verbal flogging? I'll take it. I think that's appropriate. Okay. In any case, you have some choices here. Well, so you both can clear a condition if you wish. And Mr. Quinn, you have a choice. You can either invite Green to ask you a question about the past, or you can stumble on a clue.
I will invite Green to ask me a question about the past because I feel like we're having a good conversation.
Think on it, Green. We'll come back to that. Let's go to Mr. Taloford. Mr. Taloford, you're heading to 18 St. James's Street or somewhere else?
No, actually, I'm gonna go talk to that priest who got possessed by the ghosts during his attempted exorcism.
Yeah. We never named him. Let's name him Father Guilfoyle. I shall add him to the side characters list for that mystery, or for that threat, rather. Father Guilfoyle. He ministers to a small parish in West London. You can track him down pretty easily. I think when you step inside the church, you see probably just a couple of altar boys like cleaning up the space, and maybe getting ready for afternoon mass. What do you do?
I'll ask one of them where Father Guilfoyle is. Yeah,
and they'll kind of look at you a little funny because you do cut kind of a striking figure, right? And they'll say, sure. And one of them will go back and he'll come back without Father Guilfoyle and say, Father Guilfoyle is currently resting. I think he maybe had a little bit too much of the sacramental wine last night.
Well, that's why I'm here, actually, is to minister to him and try to raise his spirits. So if you could just bring me back to his chambers, I'd appreciate it.
He'll do it. And they take you back, turn make a left, make a right, then you're in the room. And you do see him. He is laying in bed. I think whatever happened to him last night took it out of him, right? He says, oh, hello. You look familiar. Do I know you?
So I'll make sure the door is closed and like, oh yeah, I saved your life last night.
Oh, did you? So then you were at the exorcism.
Well, if you could call it an exorcism. I mean, I guess I did perform an exorcism on you. I'm not sure what you were trying to accomplish.
Great. So you're here in my church insulting my faith and my practice.
Hey, look, I'm just saying what happened. I'm just reminding you of the position that you are in currently, having been embodied by this spirit. I thought you could give me maybe you could actually still be useful in purging it from the house.
Interesting. Let me take a look at your conditions right now. Marked by the lurker. I don't think that's going to apply to anything. You can go ahead and roll the information move with sensitivity, given the nature of the conversation.
All right. That's a 12.
Very good. Let me take a look at the clues. He says, well, I can't say I have too much memory of what happened last night. Yes, you are right. My defenses were not strong enough to stop that entity from entering inside my body. And I felt so much rage, so much anger. I don't know precisely what this being's motive is, but I do know that it wishes to see the living dead. It wishes to see them pass through the veil that it has passed through, and to share in its torment. And then it gets a little like kind of, says, the only thing that I remember most distinctly is I kept having visions of a doll, a wax doll with a little pink dress and straw-colored yarn for hair. I don't know, I didn't understand the significance of it. I assume it's something that was important to this entity at some point. But I must tell you, sir, this being is not one to be trifled with at all. And he looks across the room, directing your attention with his gaze over to a table, atop which is a box. A box covered in sapphire blue velvet and tied with a blue ribbon. He says, take a look at that.
All right.
You open the box, and there is a wax doll inside the box matching the description. He says, last night was a very long night. I don't have many memories of it. I do know that on my way home, as I stumbled back to this church, I was given a ride by a woman in a very, very expensive carriage. And she was wearing a dress that perfectly matched the color of that box. And she wanted to know everything that happened to me, much as you are here wanting to know everything that happened to me. And I suppose that is her little gift to me for regaling her with my tale. What gift will you give me, sir?
So I'm gonna go grab some wine that I'm assuming he has in his room and pour us each a glass. And I'm gonna say, I'll like grab his hand and say, look, you know, I've been where you are, and I know like the first time you deal with these things, it can be troubling, and the memories will always be with you. But the gift I can give you is to help you forget them, at least for a little while.
Good. Let's note your clues really quickly. A wax doll and just mastermind clue. We'll cut over to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, if I understand correctly, if I recall correctly, you actually have another clue for the Pinkerton, which I don't think we wrote down, but if I recall correctly, it was like some kind of documents, maybe like forged documents. Am I remembering that correctly?
Close. I think if I'm remembering it correctly, it was that he had been having forgeries made of different deeds for land properties in London.
That's right. So you actually have two clues there. So, Mr. Nelson, I think you're joining at Mr. Stewart's after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, though, tell me about the route you take. Do you walk? Do you take a cab?
I think he has a lot to think about. So I imagine that he walks through the city, trying to basically happen upon Mr. Quinn and Green. That way it doesn't seem so much like he was intentionally trying to find them.
Sort of wandering in the neighborhood, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's good. You will see, approaching from a street that is definitely in the direction you're going, you will see Winslow Taggart, the Pinkerton. He's in a hurry. He's booking it to the point of like pushing people out of his way as he sort of like rushes through the street. But you recognize him from afar, especially because of that ridiculous red bow tie he wears and his quite short, squat frame.
Yeah, I think Hank sighs and then once again breaks away from where he was going and goes to follow him.
Give it the day move.
Sure.
In order to keep up with him. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I think I'm afraid that he's going to notice I'm following him and like give me the slip, essentially.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead and roll with vitality.
Okay. That's not wonderful. That's a 5 on the dice plus 1, so it's a 6. Still failure.
You are trying to reach him, but there is just a like it's just a busy street. It's a busy time of morning. You just get cut off by like street hawkers and mothers wrestling with their children and cabs crossing this way and that. And he's just slipping away. You see him kind of like disappearing down an alley. I'm going to give you a condition called frustrated. And and you lose him.
All right. I'm going to mark a crown.
Or a mask, yeah.
Or sorry, mark a mask. Because I don't have any more space for conditions anyway.
You should go ahead and do that then. So go ahead and mark your mask. It can be past or future, your choice. And instead, you will keep up with him. You will keep up with him. I don't think you're going to keep up with him just long enough to figure out what he's doing, but not well enough to react to it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to that though. Mr. Quinn and Green. Green, what's your question?
You know, this, I'm still, I feel better now, but this, to see this poor lady bleeding out on our floor yesterday, I'm not sure when was the last time you've seen such a innocent life, someone killed right before your eyes. I don't think I've seen it for such a long time. It was such a horrible sight.
Well, Green, my perception of time it's a touch skewed, for various reasons. It feels like it's been forever, but also just yesterday. And I mean, I guess literally, yes, just yesterday, but I've seen so many things. Maybe not everyone was innocent. I think it was, though, when my mother died. It was very tragic for me.
May she rest in peace. I'm sure it was a bad day. Wasn't it?
It was. It was a horrible day. It left me with a lot of lingering questions.
Oh, I'm sure. I think Green is a bit uncomfortable talking about your mother because he doesn't really know. They don't really know what is off limits and what is not. So they're really trying to kind of get out of this line of the conversation.
I think that I can actually recognize that Green is uncomfortable, and I don't want Green to be uncomfortable. So I'm happy. I just rapidly change a topic to, the last party that we attended and what everyone was wearing.
Very good. The cab pulls up to Mr. Stewart's storefront where he sells rare coins that are worth selling. I'm sure he keeps the really important ones for himself. And there's a small crowd of people gathered around it, and you see busted glass on the sidewalk. Something has happened at the rare coin store. Mr. Quinn, what do you do?
I will just walk up confidently through the crowd to see what's going on.
You'll overhear some chatter. Well, yes, I heard the gunshot too. And then someone else is like, I hope no one's hurt in there. And then you hear a person say, oh my God, look. And you'll notice a little deeper inside the store, you'll see a body, presumably Mr. Stewart, laid out. on the ground in a pool of blood, not dissimilar to his wife and how she passed. Green, what do you do?
I think Green quickly. So is there anyone else in the room?
No one has gone into the shop yet. I think this must have happened like really, really recently.
Okay, so
because there's not even any police there yet.
I think Green quickly goes over there and they kind of try to feel for, or they make it look like they feel for Mr. Stewart's pulse and so on, but actually what they're checking is all the like pockets, shirt pocket and so on, whether they can see the coin anywhere.
Take the information move with composure. You're muted, Adrian. Adrian, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, that was an 8 on the die plus 3 because I took an advancement on composure, so that's an 11.
That's very high for composure. It's good.
Composure is not my strong suit.
Great. You have your clue. You get a clue. It's for the Pinkerton, actually. You are going through Mr. Stewart's pockets and, to your chagrin, not finding the piece of silver, sadly. But you look up and you see something very, very curious. You see a red handkerchief tied to what appears to be like the back of a chair. Extremely curious detail, except you remember that last night, as you were cleaning up, you found a red handkerchief tied to the front bell ringer at Hargrave House. Very, very curious detail. Out of character, it goes with the Pinkerton. In character, who knows what you think of it, but I'm curious what you think of it.
I think Green first kind of gets up and actually unties it and puts it in their pocket. And then turns around to see whether anyone else has noticed it or whether they are looking into the room and have seen them do it. And I think they're a bit concerned that this murder or killing here might be somehow traced back to have something to do with Hargrave House, and that's what they, so if there's anything, so now I think they're looking around to see whether there's anything that kind of connects the scene here to Hargrave House, because that would be Green's job to avoid that from happening, keep that from happening.
Indeed. And the clue there is going to be red handkerchiefs tied in conspicuous places. Mr. Taloford, what do you do once you're done with the priest, or at least after you get this very, very conspicuous clue?
Yeah, so after I comfort the priest for a bit, I think I'll head to St. James and just go check out the house, because I want one more clue before I try to quiet this thing.
Yeah, it's good. I think you go to the front, and before you can even ring the bell, the door opens and Roger Beale, a 11-year-old brat, is there, and he says, "I recognize you. You and your friend were here last night."
Yes, that's me, child.
He says, so what do you need? I mean, haven't you had enough hauntings in your life to last you, or haven't you had enough haunted activity to last you a lifetime?
I'm afraid my work here isn't quite done. I'm just gonna walk in and like
He's
kind
like,
of move
that's a
him to
cool
the
eye
side.
patch. Can I see what's behind it?
I actually will lift my eye patch
Oh,
for
what do we
this
see?
kid.
What is, or actually, how does he react? Maybe you don't even have to tell us what we see.
I think he just like immediately like the color drains out of his face and he just backs up into the house and I walk in.
That's enough to get Roger off your case.
Yeah.
So, that's good. The house is definitely in disarray. It clearly looks like it had like 50 people in it last night and no one's cleaned up.
Right.
And no one even got Roger off school. Like it's it's like that kind of situation. There doesn't seem to be anyone else immediately around. What do you do?
So I think that I'm just gonna try to summon this ghost and like just get a face-to-face with it and see what it's up to.
Intriguing. How so? Are you able to do old bones yet?
I am not,
Not yet.
but I can do it via a ritual. It's a
Go
little
for it.
more roundabout, but
Yeah, go for it.
um,
What does the ritual look like?
so I think that we know it's in the kitchen, right? So I'm just going to go to the kitchen and prepare like a ritual altar on the countertop. And I think there's just some meat or something that I can find, hanging on a hook down there that I'll burn while doing this ritual and try to summon somebody. Like, I don't think I just need like some spirit that's around to be like a catalyst, right? To like get the ghost out. So it doesn't need to be anybody special, like just whoever's around and like the smell of this cooked meat, I'll summon and use them to bring the ghosts.
I like it. I'm into it. Go ahead and roll with sensitivity or whatever you roll with that move, I should say.
That's a 13.
All right. I'd be marking the cosmic passage constantly, so you can just be unmarking it every time you do that.
Yeah, I know. But I don't fail rolls for some reason.
You definitely had some hot rolls. Well, you stay in your lane, which I think helps.
Sure, yeah.
All right. So, what's your effect is to communicate with someone? Okay, good. And
yeah.
So you're just trying to get this ghost or some ghost? Which ghost?
I want to just talk to this ghost, man. Okay. Like, I feel like we've been beating around the bush with this thing. I just want to like talk to it.
How do you know the ghost is there at the completion of the ritual?
So everything falls off the shelves.
Good, I love it. Let's go back to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, you see Winslow Taggart approach a very, very large, fancy carriage. And the passenger in the carriage opens the little curtain. I don't think you've met Theodora yet, have you, Mr. Nelson?
They've not had that pleasure, I don't believe.
So you don't even know who this is, but it is out of character, it's Theodora. And Winslow reaches up and gives her what appears to be a silver coin. And she takes it, and then she passes to him a little pouch of money and closes the curtain, and the carriage takes off. What do you do?
Does he remain there after the carriage leaves?
He walks off, but with less haste.
I think Hank will like sort of jog to catch up with him and like clap a hand on his shoulder and say, "Oh, fancy meeting you out here today. How are you doing?"
Mr. Nelson, I'm very sorry I wasn't able to attend your dinner party last night. Some things got out of hand. I had to take care of a few things in the city and unexpectedly. I hope everything went well. And of course, I do. Thank you for the invitation.
It was a terribly entertaining party from what I gather. as it turns out, I wasn't able to make it myself, so I'm glad that I was able to meet up with you today. I wanted to ask, you, of course, will be accompanying me back to the States personally, I imagine.
Yes, that's what I've been paid to do.
Then what's your schedule like? How long are you intending to be staying around London?
I'll take this as an information move. I don't think he necessarily knows he's up to something. Go ahead and roll with presence. Let me take a look at your conditions, though. No, just roll with presence. It's fine.
Okay. That's much better. That's 8 + 2 is 10.
He will give up something accidentally. I need to think about what it is, though. No, just give me a moment. He says, "Oh, well, I do actually have a bit of personal business here in the city, Mr. Nelson." Wait, who did we just lose? Oh, we lost Alicia. Okay. We'll just keep going. We'll catch Alicia up. He says, "I actually do have a bit of personal business here in the city, Mr. Nelson. I'm not just here on your parents' business of retrieving you, although I do intend to honor that obligation to the fullest extent of my capabilities. But I have a bit of a probate matter to settle while I'm here in this city. You probably don't want to be bothered with all that, though, do you?"
Oh, I would love to hear what's brought such an enterprising man as yourself all the way across the ocean beyond little old me.
And here he makes a mistake. He fumbles something out of his pocket. It's a small glass tube full of rubies. You can pick it up for him and notice what it is, Mr. Nelson.
I absolutely, bend over. Oh, I'm sorry. You seem to have dropped this out of your pocket.
He says, well, speak of the devil. These gems actually, they were bequeathed to me. I have an aunt who was very wealthy, lived here in the city, and she died some months ago, and I just came to retrieve this gift. And he puts it in his pocket.
An aunt, perhaps I've run across her here in the city in my time here. What was her name?
Oh, Mildred. I don't think you know her.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I don't
Mildred
know any
Winslow.
Mildreds. Now, Winslow's, I do know a few.
Oh, do you?
Oh, certainly. There's Gilbert Winslow and Martha Winslow. They're up the street from Hargrave House.
Mr. Nelson, I'm very sorry. I don't mean to cut you off or be rude. We do need to make haste getting you back to the United States. I will swing by Hargrave House very soon to retrieve you. Please make sure that you have all of your personal effects gathered up and ready to go.
My thought exactly. I'll see you at the house sometime soon, I hope.
Yes, very, very soon. Probably a day or two at the most. Should give you plenty of time to settle your affairs here.
I hope you settle yours as well.
Yes. Poor Aunt Mildred, he says as he clops off. But that's your clue. A tube full of small rubies. What is he up to?
I think after having that interaction, I think Hank is interested in, like, on the one hand, uncovering the scheme that is going on. And then on the other hand, there's like pressuring him about his cover story too. And so I think maybe he goes to a like public records building of some kind in order to try to follow up maybe on some of those buildings that the deeds and all that, and also to look up to. Obviously, there is no ant, or at least
No.
he would assume that there isn't.
Yeah, no, he's definitely lying about that.
Yeah. So if he could like get out of there maybe with some kind of record that shows that, that would be his goal too.
Yeah, I like that. Just to catch Alicia up, Alicia, basically Mr. Nelson caught up with Mr. Taggart and tried to like figure out like, you know, Mr. Taggart's timeline for going back to America. Mr. Taggart accidentally dropped a tube full of rubies out of his pocket. And Mr. Nelson picked it up, and Mr. Taggart tried to play it off like, oh, I'm here in the city dealing with a probate matter. These were left to me in a will by my Aunt Mildred Winslow, which is a total lie. And he's going to come pick up Mr. Nelson at Hargrave House very, very soon, probably in a day or two. And so, and that's where they departed. Now Mr. Nelson, it looks like, is going to go do some record research. So you are now caught up. Let's go back to Mr. Stewart's real quick, and then we'll take a break. Back at Mr. Stewart's. So this is quite a scene, Green, and Mr. Quinn. Mr. Quinn, you can tell that Green is doing what Green does. What are you doing right now?
So, I have no love lost for this awful man who killed his wife and
Yeah.
stole from me.
Yeah.
So I just want to see if he has anything of interest. I would say of value, but it's not necessarily monetary value. I'm just looking for interesting things that I would like to take.
Ask another player at the table to define what it is, and then add it to your personal quarters.
All right. I guess I will ask Mr. Taloford, what do I find?
Can I have a minute?
Green, what are you doing in the meantime?
So as Green cannot find the coin, I think they are actually interested in, because they were a coin collector, right, Mr. Stewart? So I think I'm going to try to find the most beautiful coin, a silver coin that is somewhere around here, so I can at least give something back to Mr. Taloford to replace it.
Yeah, I think you can be doing that. It was a bit of a smash and grab job as well. Whoever did this did take a lot of what was in the cases. Maybe because of, maybe they're trying to cover up what they were really doing, or maybe they just want to make a little money on the side. It's a little unclear. But I will let you find something, a coin of interest, but you don't give it to Mr. Quinn for a reason. Think about what it is, and then you can add it to your personal quarters. Dan, any thoughts on what Mr. Quinn finds, coin or otherwise?
So I think that Mr. Quinn finds a pocket watch that has an inscription like "to my love," but the initials that gave it to him are not the initials of his wife.
Mr. Stewart is a scumbag all around. Good. Mr. Taloford, the ghost is there, not visible, but you can feel them. You can feel that anger that Father Guilfoyle described. What do you say? What do you do?
So I'm just gonna, since we should be able to communicate, I'm just gonna ask it like, you know, hey, like I understand, and I can feel the anger that you have and that you're holding on to, and I'm here to help you. And so just show me how I can help you.
Nice. Give me a moment. Very nice. Oh, good. Let me take a look at your current clues to make sure I'm not doubling up here. I don't think so. No. They do not communicate literally, or at least directly. You can feel the anger. And I think that there is a hearth fire in the kitchen, like a stove with ash, and there's a pile of ash at the base of it on the floor. And you can see a finger marking out numbers in the ash. It's a long series of numbers. Making sense of it is for what you'll do when you answer the question, but that's your clue.
Sounds good. So I'll thank it and dismiss it.
Yeah, indeed. How does the room lighten when the ghost is gone?
So this is in the basement, right? Like it's kind of a basement kitchen.
Yeah, the kitchen and the servants' quarters is all in the basement.
Right. So I think like it's just like a cloud lifts off the sun, and through the small windows up by the ceiling, there's just like God rays kind of coming into the kitchen and lightening it up.
Nice. Let's take 5, and we'll come back and pick up with record research with Mr. Nelson. So, Mr. Nelson, you said you were going to like a sort of a records office, a title office, or something like that. To look at these, to see what you can find out about these particular addresses. I like that. Sounds good to me. I think that's the kind of research that's probably going to take up the rest of your day phase. But go ahead and do the information move with reason, I'd say.
Okay. That was so close to being a very good roll. The dice took a turn at the very end. That's a 7, and I think my reason is a -2 right now. So
it is going very poorly.
oh yeah.
Yeah. I think you are doing your research. That's all going fine. You've got the documents you need, and there's like an attendant who's helping you with things. He keeps asking you questions about why you need to know this, why you want to see this, and you keep, blowing him off or whatever. And the attendant, at a certain point, you realize that the attendant has left you alone in the room. And you hear behind your back, at a certain point, a click, click. And you feel something pressing up against your back. And you turn to see Winslow Taggart training a gun on you. And he says, "Certainly some very interesting research you're doing there, Mr. Nelson."
Well, I just thought it would be good to try to see if I could send some flowers to the estate of your late aunt.
Yes, well, I wouldn't worry about her too much, Mr. Nelson. I'm going to have to ask you to come with me. I think until we make our little voyage back across the Atlantic, you're going to come stay at the Langham Hotel. I've got plenty of space for you, and I don't want any trouble.
Well, I find, and he like looks down at, I'm assuming the pistol pointed at him. Well, I find your methods of persuasion quite persuading. I would be delighted to join you at your hotel. How's the room service there? I'm feeling a tight
He
bit
says, "Shut up.
peckish."
Let's go." Do you go with him?
Yeah, Hank goes with him.
And he will take you to the Langham Hotel where he's staying. And he keeps the gun trained on you, but through his pocket so nobody can tell what's going on. And he tells the person at the front that he doesn't want to be disturbed until the conclusion of his stay. and he takes you to his room. You climb some stairs, you get to the room. He'll take you in the room, and he'll say, now, just to ensure that you don't give me the slip, he takes a pair of handcuffs and he cuffs you to what appears to be like a piece of exposed plumbing, the hotel being the type that has plumbing, and handcuffs you there and says, now I'll make sure you're fed, and I will see to it that you're as comfortable as I can make you, but I have a little bit more business to do in the city before we get on that boat. Don't cause any trouble, Mr. Nelson, and thank you for coming so quietly.
I strive to be cooperative when it makes sense for me.
Good. And he leaves you there. And we will now cut back over to, I don't know, I feel like we're getting pretty close to being done with the day phase. I do want to give everybody else one last chance to do one more thing, and then if there's no takers, we'll go to the desk. Mr. Quinn or Mr. Green. Oh, and also Mr. Green, tell us about the coin you kept for yourself.
So the coin that Green finds is a French coin with the bust of Napoleon on it, and I think when he sees that, he kind of they kind of abandon for now the plan of. They have it if the other coin never shows up again, to maybe something special to give to Mr. Taloford, but at the moment, this is a coin that Green is taking for themselves.
Is there anything else you want to do, Green, for the day phase?
I think Green will actually, before everybody, before like the police arrives or before we leave, I think Green will take a blood sample from Mr. Stewart.
Intriguing. That feels like a weird thing to do. Do I want to make you roll the? I do want to make you roll the day move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve here?
I think someone is just going to come in and kind of disturb me doing this. And the thing is, Green has like all these little things with them because this is part of kind of being, you know, the housekeeper and so on. And who knows when this blood might have to be planted somewhere to kind of draw attention away from Hargrave House or whatever.
Intriguing. Go ahead and roll with composure.
Nine.
You will collect the blood. I assume you have some kind of airtight flask or tube with you of some sort. And I think as you're sort of like putting a stopper on that, a detective inspector from Scotland Yard who introduces himself as Pettigrew is there, and he sees you doing it, and he doesn't say anything, but he says, I think we have this situation under control now. Thank you very much for keeping everything, keeping the rabble away until we arrived. I'm sure that whoever did this to this poor man is probably someone who suffers from a malady of the mind. There are so many in the city like that. But don't
yes,
you worry.
Inspector. Yes. When we came here, I right away went to check the poor man's pulse. There was nothing left. His life ended here in this senseless way. It's a horrible tragedy.
Yes. Thank you for the forensic inquiry. I think that'll be all then. Thank you very much. And you too, Mr. Quinn, is it?
Charmed, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, if you think of anything else that you might have seen here today that you think Scotland Yard should be aware of, do let me know. He gives you his card. You see Detective Inspector Pettigrew on it and an address where he can be reached. And he says, anything at all. The details are important. Things that you might not have initially thought were important often end up becoming quite important in the investigation. It's the details that matter. It's the details that will help us find this poor, afflicted individual who did this terrible crime and bring them to justice.
I would like to drop some coins in his hand and say, but some details are not important, and like look towards Green.
You drop the coins in Pettigrew's hand?
Yes.
These are just like a bribe.
Yes.
He will look at it and he'll pocket it. But I'm giving you both the condition marked by D.I. Pettigrew. Mr. Taloford, anything else you want to do?
Nope, out of character. I want to solve that mystery, but
Let's
in
do it.
character, I think I'm done.
We can swing over to that now. Let's do answer a question. So it sounds like you're aiming for the St. James's Street ghost, yeah?
Yep.
You have six available clues on a 6 complexity. What's your theory?
All right. So I think like this is the ghost of a woman who was murdered by her husband, and then she's been laid to rest in the same crypt as him. And so I think to quiet the spirit, we need to take her bones away from his.
Make your case. Let's go one by one. So
Okay.
What the spiral pattern, that's tough. What do you think?
So I think that might be a marker on the crypt itself. Like that's
Okay.
how we'll ID the crypt. And same thing with the numbers. I think the numbers are like dates that we'll
Dates.
find on the crypt.
Okay.
So we have the love letters is like infidelity that probably led to the murder, right? And then we have someone who pushed down the stairs and fingers tightening around the neck is just general violence.
Yep. How it
and
happened. Yeah.
the wax doll is the one that I'm like a little sketchier on, if anybody has ideas.
What if the violence stemmed from someone's inability to have a child and the wax doll is like supposed to be a representative of that?
Interesting.
I'm into that.
Or maybe like the inability to have the child is what drove the split in the romance to begin with or something, right? Yeah. That's every clue accounted for. That's great. It's a great theory. Does anybody have any other thoughts or theories of their own?
I think that's great.
Fabulous. You got a flat roll. Go for it, Mr. Talford.
All right. Well, there it is. That's a 5.
It's wrong, and I will react. However, if everyone marks the Janus mask, I'll bump it up to it bumps up to a 7 to 9. Everybody has to mark the Janus mask. Everybody has some to spend, so it's not necessarily a bad move here.
Well, I'm down, but
Yeah,
I'll leave
I'd
that
mark
to everyone
it.
else.
That bumps it up to a 7 to 9. The opportunity is open. You can now resolve the threat by performing the quieting ritual. Because it's 7 to 9, it will be a hard fight. This is going to be a tough exorcism, but you are quieting, but you have the ability to do it now. Everyone take a look at your Janus mask, figure out what you're going to be doing here in a moment. And very good. I'm going to go take a look at the phase switcher. Pop over to the desk phase. Interesting, Mr. Nelson is trapped right now. Wouldn't it be wild if you change into a werewolf right now? Or whatever creature you change into. Does everyone have their mask picked? Right. Mr. or Green, rather, do you have your mask picked?
Yes.
Great. The desk phase. Let's do the quickening now. Let's see how that's going to go, Mr. Nelson.
Right.
I'm tempted to put you at disadvantage too because of all your conditions. So go for it.
I will roll one more dice then, and we'll see. Oh, same roll actually. So that is a 8 + 1, 9.
You will keep it together. You might as well bump it to a 10 again.
I sure should.
Yeah, you got to start shaking those conditions.
I do. I know. Otherwise, I'm just pushing this character very quickly towards. And
it's okay though, because then if we get like the cursed threat, you can go play the unquiet or somebody, right? But,
exactly. I think it would actually be fun to maybe go that way eventually. So I don't mind that I'm burning so quickly. But
yeah, some characters just burn hotter than others.
Mhm.
Okay, good. So you I think because of your enhanced, in control feralness, you can escape this situation whenever you want. So very good. Green, are you taking anything from Hargrave House?
Let's see. No, I don't think I'll take an item.
You do have day work though.
Yes, I maybe I find a, let's see, maybe I find a clue related to the Pinkerton. Maybe in some notice in the newspaper when I bring that, like when I take out the old newspapers and bring them out.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And it might be maybe something about an, let's see, it fits with the other clues.
Well, per the move, I think you just asked me a question and I can.
I think I asked you. Yeah. Let's see.
And I'll answer in the form of a clue.
Oh, you ask. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yes. So something about the Pinkerton while bringing out the newspapers.
What's the specific question you want to
know? How can we help Mr. Nelson?
Oh, that's interesting. Good. While you going with your newspaper theory, there is a story in the paper of an American unnamed who is trying to purchase one of the largest horse breeding farms that's just outside the city. Winslow Taggart is named as that person's agent who's doing the negotiation. We'll note that as a clue. Winslow Taggart is trying to buy a horse farm for an unknown person in America. And then, great. Continuing on with moves, unquenchable thirst doesn't come into play because you don't have any physical appearance scars or anything like that, condition-wise. And so let's go to the next thing, which is Hargrave House. Let's do, we did the music room last time, right? Let's do the kitchen, since we've spent so much time in kitchens lately. The kitchen of Hargrave House existed long before the rest of the house, having been part of a pub that stood on the spot before Belgravia was redeveloped to be a residential district. What do we see that reminds us of this fact?
I think that a portion of the kitchen is raised like a mini stage with some stairs leading up to where performers would have performed in the pub.
Nice.
I think the stove is just too large, even for a house that size. You could cook like for 30 people here easily.
I think that there's several pipes that come up from a basement area that all lead to different like kegs and things that were originally there to store different kinds of liquor.
And I think a lot of the windows are just like have wood over them from, you know, having been constantly broken. Like they just replaced them with wood.
Great. All right, so what is everybody going to be doing tonight? I'm really curious to hear about Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, what are you doing tonight?
Nelson's plan, Hank's plan is to hopefully fairly handily snap out of his handcuffs since he's feeling so powerful and energized tonight. But then he's going to wait in that same chair with his revolver, because I picked up the fastest gun in the West move when I updated. I think that, you know, maybe he had been keeping that in a box in his quarters, and as things started to heat up with the Pinkerton, he decided that it might be better if he had it on his person. So he's going to wait for him with a gun.
Oh, interesting. Very good. Very good. Mr. Taloford, what are you doing tonight?
I'm gonna go do some light grave robbery. I like the idea that Taloford comes back to the house and he's like, guys, I figured it out. I know what we gotta do. And like looks around, there's nobody there. Like there's never anybody there. He's like, okay, guess I'm doing it by myself.
It's good. Quinn.
I think I'm going to visit the masterwork and my worshippers tonight.
Oh, fun. And Green.
I think Green might have gotten a bit suspicious about, because I'm not sure if we've seen Mr. Nelson, because they have been at the dinner party, and then, you know, so I think Green is kind of out in the city looking for Mr. Nelson as part of kind of keeping things together.
No, that's good. I like it.
Also, I marked the gilded door.
Oh, interesting.
When we marked the masks, so
that's different for the factotum, right? For the factotum,
yes.
It says because it works a little differently for the factotum.
Yeah.
Tell your employer to take the condition most beloved. The other hunters can no longer choose the gilded door in their own playbook. Your employer can never clear Most Beloved unless their playbook says otherwise. It can get cleared, Alicia, but it's pretty narrow circumstance. But in any case, it's permanent. So apart from that. And your life just got way more complicated. Say thanks to Adrian. And good. Good. Okay. So Janus Mass prompts, you can do them now if you wish, or you can wait until the dawn. You can do them. So if you want a little more time to think about them, you have until the dawn phase if you want to wait till then. But otherwise, if you want to do them now, you can do them now. Whoever wants to do now may. If anybody wants to, just say so.
I think I'm going to hold off till the dawn phase myself.
Sounds good. Is that everybody wait until dawn?
Mine doesn't have a prompt. I took the
very
Cosmic
good.
Passage, so.
Good.
Same.
Same. Okay, 2 cosmic passages. Good, good. That changes the game a lot too. Great. Okay, in that case, let's continue with the unseen. Tonight's unseen is going to be the tarot card reading of Ms. Lydia Wainwright. This is the second option in the first row. Lydia Wainwright is a young woman of 19, born into a respectable family. Her mother has commanded her to marry Edgar Thornton, the son of a wealthy industrialist, but her heart belongs to Samuel, a poor but very handsome chimney sweep. Lydia has snuck off in the night to the home of a fortune teller, seeking guidance on the matter. The first is paint the scene. Everyone does that. The second is going to be for Alicia. Third will be David. The fourth will be Adrian. And let's just take a quick 3-minute break. We'll come back and begin the night phase. The tarot card reading of Ms. Lydia Wainwright. Everyone, as Lydia enters the home of the fortune teller, what do we see that shows this place has real magic?
I think that there are lit candles that are glowing black instead of like regular fire color.
I think periodically, like sort of just at like in the back of your vision on screen, there's like a broom that's going across and dusting the floors by itself.
So I think right as Lydia walks in, she walks in right on the tail end of the fortune teller, like literally healing a man's, like holding a man's hand, and you can see like his fingers straightening out and like healing.
I think walking into the house means you basically have to literally walk through the door.
Green, you're wandering the streets of London at night. What sorts of places are you looking for Mr. Nelson in?
I think first probably like his regular pubs or places that Green might be aware that they would eat at frequently. And if when there's nothing like in the regular places, I think looking out for a red handkerchief that might be like that's kind of the thing that Green might expect to find somewhere suddenly.
You step out of one of the pubs and you see what is undeniably Theodora Brathwaite's carriage across the lane. What do you do?
walk up to it, I think. And is there anyone kind of driving the carriage, sitting on top of it or something?
Yeah, there's always a driver. Yeah.
I think Green says like, is the lady out on business?
The driver looks up and makes a motion as if to say, I can't hear and I can't speak.
Mm.
And then the passenger compartment door opens. And Julius steps out. Long flowing hair, wearing a black cloak with a top hat that he pops on his head. And as he's stepping out, he says, don't worry, it'll get done. And he closes the door and says, oh, Green, didn't expect to see you here.
Oh, me neither. Well, so what is your business with the lady? I wanted to apologize again for what happened yesterday at the house. I'm sure you've heard.
Don't worry about all that. It seemed like it was a most thrilling evening, and well.
Oh, you would have
got to-
enjoyed part of it. Green thinking about all the blood on the floor.
He says, well, I wasn't there for the dinner party portion, but I did get to have a little taste of things, as it turns out. Mrs. Stewart was an unfulfilling meal, say. I'm just about to go down to a cemetery to meet up with Mr. Taloford, who I think is engaged in some very interesting business tonight. Do you care to walk with me?
Green looks back at the carriage, kind of. I will.
Splendid. He says, here, we hold this, and he passes back to you like what's like just a cane, which he had for just affect, and like continues walking down the lane. Let's go to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, what are you hoping to accomplish once Winslow does get back?
I think he might, at whatever disadvantage, just. I think he's going to try to solve the answer to one of the questions. I think he's going to try to basically indicate that he knows his dealings and also has a gun. Yeah, I think he's going to make an accusation. I think it's time for him to do that.
I'll give you a chance for one more clue if you wish.
Yeah, I mean, he'll look around the room and probably try to see if there's anything there.
You can kind of have this one for free. I don't even need a roll. You are going to be aware, because of your enhanced senses, that Mr. Taggart has been meeting people at the Langham all day and evening down in the lobby. He meets with a procession of representatives from various trade unions in the city. It's almost certainly has something to do with what he's up to. You haven't quite made out the details yet, but you can just kind of hear them introducing themselves because they're much more jocular and loud when they do that. And then when they get down to business, they speak more quietly and you can't quite make it out. But in any case, that's the clue.
Would it be good then to do a sort of, is this then a theorize that I mostly just spearhead, or would this be something that we all?
I mean,
sort of
it's
discuss?
answer a question is always out of character, so anybody can pitch in, but we can start having that conversation now if you wish, or we can come back. It's up to you.
I think it'd be good to have it so then I know where we're at when I go into the
Yeah, I think
scene.
that's good. You've got 6 clues available. What's your initial thinking?
I really love the horse farm clue. I think maybe he's trying to set up a like horse doping operation in America, and like which then like circumvents some rules in London so they can get like advanced air quotes horses from America for races and stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that accounts for one of the clues. What about the others?
Well, I think the rubies are payment,
Okay.
sort of a forward of some kinds for it. I think talking to the-
Untraceable, right?
yeah, exactly. Like the rubies,
Yeah.
they hold value without
Mhm.
being currency. And I think that the trade union reps are. I think he's been discussing things with them to. I think bribing the right hands to look past it, and then also just making sure that their operation is clear, that they can do it and nobody's going to throw a fuss.
Yeah, it's good.
I think red handkerchief tied in conspicuous places and the forged deeds I'm a little bit interested in. I think the rare coins at the auction houses can just be answered as well by currency that is untraceable, right?
Yeah.
That has value, but it's untraceable.
So that's 4 clues accounted for. Do you want to roll on 4?
Unless somebody has a idea of how to work those in, like I could try to ham fist them, but I'd love other thoughts.
So does this actually resolve the threat, or should we be saving clues for another question? Or do we know?
This is the final thing, yeah, because the opportunity is to resolve the threat by confronting Taggart. So yeah, this is it.
I mean, the handkerchiefs is something that so maybe they have like, I mean, the one thing is basically the farm. The other thing might be that they need some kind of I think it's kind of, maybe it's a way for them to I'm wondering whether it's a way for them to meet with someone who is kind of something like a doctor that's kind of, producing some form of medicine for the horses or drugs for the horses or something.
I'm not convinced yet.
No, not yet. No.
The handkerchiefs were found at places where there were murders. So what if
That's
he
true.
needs to intimidate someone?
Oh,
Right. And it's
okay.
like a calling card, whether or not he did the murders or not. It's sort of like a
It's
calling
a
card
calling
to be
card.
like,
Yeah,
if you don't come along with this,
this is going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Because he's clearly connected to things, right? He knew Theodora, right? Like he knew Theodora before the dinner party, right? Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a signal to like basically pressure the right people in town. That's interesting. I can go with that. I like that. The deeds then, that feels like the odd man out here.
Tying in what Adrian was just saying, I think that could tie, like that could work with this. Basically, that, and also ties in with just our general like sort of extortion angle with this. The deeds could be like a front to show, like to pressure some group that owns these properties and say like, well, actually you're not the rightful owners, we are, and we have the documents to prove it. And it serves as like pressure on them. And I think that could like link to like the commission that verifies the horses when they come in and
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's really, really good. Maybe you discovered that in your record
Yeah.
research. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Got +2, not bad. Go ahead and roll.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get a decent one out of this. Hey, that's good. That's 4 and 5 is 9 + 2, 11.
Nice. That means the resolution will be really straightforward. As long as you have the scene, you should be able to wrap it up. So
Cool.
Let's go to Mr. Taloford. Mr. Taloford, tell us about the initial arrival at the cemetery and the preparations you make.
All right, so it hasn't really come up, and mechanically it probably doesn't matter, but between last session and this one, I did get a familiar, so I do have Baruch the
Okay.
Crow, so I have fully transitioned into emo preacher.
Very good, very good.
So me and my crow are, I think, just like we get to the cemetery, and I think I'm gonna hit the rune stands and do a thinning of the veil to try and see what's gonna happen here.
Oh, I like it. That's really good. It's a great time to use it. Go ahead.
Right. So that is a 7 plus sensitivity, which is now 3. So that's a 10.
What kind of magic does the crow help you with?
He does far seeing.
Okay, that would apply here if you want to like get advantage, right?
It doesn't matter. I already rolled my 10, so I'm
Okay, okay. Fabulous. So ask away.
Okay, so what do I get
I
actually?
think it's like what is about to happen and
What's about to happen? Yeah.
What is about to happen is, I'll tell you 2 things. One, you're about to be joined by Green and Julius. And I'd be curious how the runes tell you that, and then 2, the more important thing is the dead are going to be raised here in the cemetery.
All right. Man, I was hoping for a uneventful grave robbery, but here we go.
And you get to ask why as well. And the answer to why is the spirit. The spirit recognizes you and your power and is feeling very enterprising right now and tends to use you, to capture you and use you as their vessel to break free into London.
All right, man, in grateful spirits, right? All right, so yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna let probably the rune stands can guide me to the right crypt.
Yeah.
Right, and find it, and I'll just wait for Green and Julius to show up.
Like the ghost,
I'm not going to open the crypt.
The ghost is like already quite powerful, right? Like it has limited movement. It can affect things, like away from 18 St. James's Street, obviously. But with you, the vessel, who's so good at bringing dark creatures into their body, you would be the ultimate score, I think. Mr. Quinn, tell us about the place where your amethyst statue is held in London.
It is tucked away, sort of unnoticeable, and it's in a large greenhouse. So that there can be like a year-round sort of beautiful garden that grows all of these like brightly colored, non-native kind of tropical plants and flowers, and the worshipers like tend to the garden, and people will pay like an entrance fee to come and like see it when they like learn about it, to tour the gardens, and then the statue is just kind of in the middle. But from the outside, it's not very like fancy or beautiful. It's a little bit of an unknown. It's a secret.
You're getting ready to go through whatever gate or hedge leads you to it when you hear, "Ah, Mr. Quinn, I thought that was you." You see D.I. Pettigrew across the way. He says, "I had just a few follow-up questions from earlier today. I wonder if I could walk with you." We'll cut for now. Let's go back to Lydia Wainwright. Alicia, the first 2 cards that are drawn in this 5-card spread are the Lovers and the Ace of Wands, the latter of which is typically associated with passion. Speaking as the fortune teller, begin telling Lydia what you see in the cards.
So, the first card flips, it's the Lovers. It's obvious, obviously, you're here about love. Aren't all young women here about love? Flips the second card. The Ace of Wands, intriguing. the lover's card, it's about a partnership. I see two people who are equals. But passion is so important to a relationship, isn't it? But you must be careful, dear, because sometimes that passion can burn just a little too hot.
Very good. Green, you are walking along with Julius, and he says, tell me about yourself, Green. How did you manage to get wrapped up with Hargrave House? Bearing in mind that you're not allowed to talk about it.
I took a job. It's not really that important, but it has been good to me. The people there, I consider them my friends, my family, and of course, Mr. Quinn is the one that I serve, and so I hope you are enjoying your stay with us, but that it's not too disturbing. What is your business with that mysterious lady?
He says, oh, no need to worry about all that right now. I am enjoying my time in Hargrave House again. It has been so long since I've been there. And if I'm being perfectly honest, it feels like a bit of a refuge. I am currently, well, sure you know, I'm currently hiding out from a fellow in Limehouse that I don't really care to be acquainted with much longer, or any longer. I've really grown quite attached to Mr. Taloford and Mr. Quinn. Tell me about Mr. Quinn, your employer. How is it that Mr. Quinn is so worldly and seems to be, well, much, much older than his apparent age would indicate?
I tried to do my best to give them space to take care of themselves, and I attend to their needs. It keeps them. He can concentrate on doing what he does best, which is represent Hargrave House in the best possible way, and I take care of all the rest. Well, it's things like, for example, now with the party, it all went downhill, but Mr. Quinn, of course, quieted down all the mess and all the things, took care of the lady while she was there, so she didn't really feel too troubled by all of this. And he has a way with women. It's remarkable.
Oh, Green, you are so attentive to Mr. Quinn's needs and so perfectly loyal. You have a servant's heart, and I can respect that. He says, if you ever decide you would like to find different employment, I could have use of a man to look after things for me. Not that I would try to steal you away.
I couldn't. But are you going to leave us?
He makes no response and takes a step out of his way to step into a muddy puddle. And he steps out of the muddy puddle and he's looking at you and he says, would you look at that? I've gone and soiled my boots. And he slides his left foot forward and says, if only somebody was around to take care of that for me. We'll cut the scene there. Mr. Nelson, you can hear Winslow Taggart returning. He's coming down the hall, whistling, "Oh, Susanna," happily, merrily, having done a fine day's worth of crime and shady dealings. And he's getting ready to come inside. What are you doing?
I think Hank is sort of like waiting in the darkness just behind the door, so that when he goes in and sees that Hank isn't there, he will repeat the scene from earlier, only it'll be his gun in the back of Taggart.
I like it. Mr. Taloford, you now know what's about to happen. Are you ready for this fight?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna set up put a pentagram down and light some candles and stuff and get a bunch of like protective stuff going for when Green comes to open this crypt.
Nice, I like that. And Mr. Quinn, D.I. Pettigrew has asked you if he can join you.
I welcome him to accompany me into the garden.
Splendid, splendid. Unusual going to walk through a garden at night, but I suppose the flowers are different at night, aren't they? Probably busy letting off their nighttime spores or whatever flowers do. Charming, absolutely charming.
I just say nothing. I'm just going to let him talk.
Says, so earlier today, I don't want to be, well, it is my job to poke my nose into such things, you do understand. And, well, I have to ask, Mr. Quinn, your servant, Green, I believe the name was, I couldn't help but notice that Green was collecting rivulets of Mr. Stewart's blood into a glass tube. Why might he have been doing that, do you think? No crime against it, I suppose. Certainly Mr. Stewart doesn't need the blood.
It was at my request, of course.
Oh, splendid. So then maybe you could enlighten me. What was the matter then?
Nothing. I just wanted some blood.
Oh, how terrifically macabre, Mr. Quinn. And he gets a little takes like a step to the right as you're walking down the lane, just a little bit away from you. Says, so what are we hoping to find here in the heart of this quite out of the way garden?
Oh, it's a special place for me.
Oh, yes.
I have many fans here.
Oh, I see. This is the location of a certain nighttime tryst that you have fond memories of.
Would you like to see something special?
Well, I suppose I probably would. Who wouldn't want to? What do your worshippers, how do they conduct themselves? Do they just look like regular people, or do they dress a certain way?
I think that they're all dressed fairly outlandishly. I think they like to try to mimic my general style to various degrees of success, I think, depending on their sort of access and their social status. Because there's a mix of worshipers here.
I think we just see them kind of falling in behind and around you and Pettigrew as this conversation's going on. Quiet and keeping a few paces distance, but you know they're there, even if Pettigrew hasn't picked up on it yet. We'll come back to this. David, the next two cards drawn in Ms. Wainwright's spread are the Five of Swords, typically associated with violence, and the Fool, which represents the beginning of a journey. Continue the reading.
Yeah, I think she flips over these two cards and studies them for a moment, and it's like, oh, interesting. Yes. Now the swords, yes. There is someone who, depending on the decisions you make, wishes you harm, a dagger in the back, a quiet evening drawn short. But should you flee that situation, should you embark on a journey of a different kind entirely, you can avoid that danger at great personal cost.
Green, Julius is taunting you. What do you do?
Green will take out a red handkerchief that I picked up before and wipe down the boot quickly.
As you're kneeling down, wiping off the boot, he like tousles your hair like a person would to a dog. And he's like, that's good. He says, all right, then, we're nearly at the cemetery. And you do get to the cemetery where you see Mr. Taloford doing what Mr. Taloford's doing. Why don't we pick up with that, Mr. Taloford? We should probably go ahead and get that die roll going.
So I think, yeah, like he's just finished lighting the last candle. And he's like, Green, finally, I've been waiting all night. Be a good man and open that crypt for me.
Oh, yes, sure. And they hurry over to Mr. Telford's side.
So just that crypt there, if you could just crack it open and maybe pull some of the bones out.
Julius approaches you, the scene, and says, Green is very good at taking orders, isn't he?
Well, I mean,
Or aren't they?
I'm certainly not going to rip a crypt open. So I'm here for the more spiritual aspect of the ritual, and you know, it's good that we have someone here who can do the heavy lifting, as it were.
Assuming that the crypt is open, what happens then, Taloford?
Assuming the crypt is open, I think that Taloford's goal is just to sort of, I think Taloford needs to kind of bind the spirit in place so that it can't do anything to Green while they have the bones. And so I think Taloford tells Green, like, you take the bones, just get them out of here, find a nice quiet place to bury them, and like I'll deal with any angry spirits who might pop up.
Julius is starting to break out in a sweat, and he says, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to stay around for this after all. There is something trying to work its power over me right now. I think that those of us who are no longer on the mortal coil are quite vulnerable. I wish you the best of luck, Mr. Taloford, and I regret I wasn't able to see you do your work again. I have an errand to attend to anyway. And he goes. I think this is going to be Rites of Salt and Smoke. Let's roll it first to see how strong the resistance is going to be.
Sounds good. Do I have anything helpful? Not really. Okay, we're just gonna roll it. So that is an 8 plus 3, 11.
Good. It's going to work. There'll be a little bit of resistance just because you have that from the answer a question roll, but essentially I think what this looks like is you can see apparitions rising up from the cemetery, either the power of the St. James's Street ghost, which is a very powerful ghost, or they're just responding to your magic. But in any case, you can see them like as translucent shades rising up all over, and they are walking toward the newly opened crypt where Green is collecting the bones. Green, without turning around and seeing them, how do you know that the dead are approaching you right now?
I think the temperature has dropped significantly.
Good.
Not to
I
alarm you,
think-
Green, but you might want to hurry.
Yes, I'm, and I think Green is in the crypt trying to gather the right set of bones into some form of in some bag or something that they might have carried around with them. But it's dark. Not really sure if they're catching all the right ones. And but doing it quickly and trying to get out of there as quickly as possible.
Nelson. Taggart comes in. You said you were holding a gun to him.
Yeah, Hank slides in behind him and slowly closes the door with his back foot, with his gun pressed against sort of the midpoint of the back on Taggart. And he says, "No need to stop whistling on my account."
He raises his hands and says, How did you manage to slip from your bonds, Mr. Nelson?
Well, I find that bonds unjustly used, well, they tend not to be as strong as those of the true kind. Why don't you, and he like presses into the back a little bit and gestures with the gun, why don't you have a seat over there for me?
He does. Says, so what are you going to do? Threaten me? Kill me?
Well, I'm actually not here to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm here to tell you what you are going to do, Mr. Taggart. You see, I'm aware of what those rubies that you dropped earlier are for. I'm aware of your whole horse doping operation, the ring that you're assembling here in London and back at home. And, well, I figured that sounds a mite more lucrative than bringing me on home. And I think that you're better off embarking on that ship by yourself. And if you feel strongly on that matter to the contrary, and he gestures to the revolver, we can sort that out.
He smiles and says, well, it seems you have gotten the better of me, Mr. Nelson. You're a very, very slippery fellow. All right. I'll get on that ship alone, and I'll tell your parents that you're dead.
Oh, I died back in America.
Good. A bum lead. Good. Well,
I'm glad we agree on that.
I suppose we do. I suppose we do. And he begins to loosen his bow tie. Says, well, if we're done here, I'd like to get some sleep.
Well, we're almost done here. And Hank approaches him and reaches into his coat and pulls out his revolver and says, don't fancy having this in my back anytime soon.
Good. The Pinkerton threat is resolved. Congratulations. Mr. Quinn. This pesky detective is there with you. You have the upper hand, though. Your worshippers are all around. What do we see when we arrive in the center of the garden?
You see the masterwork. It's sort of like on a pedestal And there are several people sort of at the base that seem to be doing some kind of like ritualistic self-flagellation. And it looks as it has been described, I guess, to this point.
He turns and says, what is this? What is this about? What's going on?
This is my garden. You asked to follow me. I was going to my garden. I thought it polite to invite you along.
This is a spectacle of depravity, Mr. Quinn. I'm afraid that my colleagues at Whitehall aren't going to be able to tolerate this. You should expect a visit very soon from Scotland Yard.
Because you think that I'm depraved?
Because I think that you were involved in the murder of Mr. Stewart, and these strange circumstances I find myself in here tonight only confirm as much. Now, please stand aside.
Stand aside from what, sir?
And I think the worshippers are cordoning around him, right? You know that you have but to give the word here.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm going to say to him, so here's the thing. D.I. Pettigrew, was it? I'm sorry, I couldn't actually be bothered to learn your
Detective
name.
Inspector Pettigrew, yes.
Yes, so people, when they come to the garden, generally have a change of perspective. If they do, they often choose to stay here, and if they don't, well, they don't leave.
Out of character, what do you want him to do right now?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think that this is the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you do not intimidate him right now, or you don't, if just this moment goes poorly?
I guess if I can't convince him essentially to become one of my followers and or keep his mouth shut, I'm afraid I will have to kill him. Well, my worshippers will have to kill him.
It's worse than that. It won't be a clean kill. It'll be a very, very unclean kill. Do the night move with presence. Let's see how that goes. I think I do want you to take it at disadvantage because of being marked by Pettigrew.
Okay. Oh, that's excellent. That's even a disadvantage, going to be a 12.
Nice. Very good. You get an extra benefit too. Good. We have one more scene, right? We do. We'll come back and wrap up in a moment. Adrienne. The last card drawn is the devil, representing the seduction of the material world into other earthly pleasures. Continue your reading and then tell Lydia definitively what she must do.
The fortune teller says, your heart belongs to the one, but the other, he believes he is owed your respect and your love, and he will not be quiet until he is quieted. Girl, if you want to live freely, you will have to find a way to get rid of the one that your parents have chosen for you.
Good. Mr. Taloford, the ritual itself is pretty straightforward, right? You just have to take the bones and rebury them. No big deal. And that untethers the St. James's Street ghost from this world. The problem is that there are other apparitions that are about to do something horrible to Green. What do you do to stop that?
So, man, this seems dumb, but I think I'm just gonna step out of the circle and like lead them off and let them chase me.
Yeah, you are the vessel after all. You're
Right.
much more enticing than Green. Night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid they're going to catch me.
Yeah, they're going to catch you, and they are going to overwhelm you, your vessel, as it were, until you are destroyed. Probably psychologically, but who knows? Maybe something else. In any case, roll with sensitivity.
That is a 7 + 3, 10.
Full success. Describe how you rescue Green from this moment.
So I think like there's one of these spirits is like reaching out to Green, and I think I like as I like run out of the circle, I like sweep my arm through it and like grab its attention and just book it out of the cemetery, and just run and run and run until like I essentially collapse.
Green, you have the bones. I'm curious. Probably when you stepped out of the crypt, there's no one around. Julius is not around. Taloford's not around. You can tell that the dead are not around.
It has gotten warmer again, so I think Green turns around with the bones, and they walk until they find a grave with Julius's name on it, and I think that's where they dig a hole and they bury the bones.
Very good, very good. Mr. Nelson, how do you spend the rest of the night, having taken care of the Taggart problem?
I think that Hank goes to the opium den in Limehouse and spends his evening there.
Mr. Quinn, give us the scene. What does it look like as Detective Inspector Pettigrew becomes your follower?
I think that one of the other worshippers sort of walks up and presses something into the small of his back that seems really threatening. And when he turns around, it's actually just the handle of a flogger. And he is, in order to be accepted, not by me, but by the other worshippers, he has to engage in this ritualistic self-flagellation in front of everyone. It's very embarrassing for him.
You can both remove marked by Pettigrew as a condition. And I'm not even going to make you scar the reflection since you rolled so well. I just like that scene ended there. It's good. And so concludes the night phase. I do want to take a short break just to give anybody doing Janus Mask a moment to think about it. So we'll just take like a quick 3-minute break. We'll come back and we'll do the dawn. It's the dawn phase after a very eventful night phase. Let's take a look at the dawn. Rewards. Hey, rewards. We get them. So we have 2 resolved threats, and they each have a list of rewards that you will get to choose from. So for the St. James's Street Ghost, you have the following rewards available. Everybody gets one thing. A jar of ectoplasm, which you add to your personal quarters. A mirror that always shows a reflection of the St. James's Street Ghost, which you add to your personal quarters. You can unmark the cosmic passage if it's marked and reverse any effects of it being marked. you have to explain why performing the quieting ritual is making you less attuned to the supernatural world. Or you can just take a memento from the investigation, ask another hunter what it is, and then add it to your personal quarters. Everyone gets to choose one thing.
Mr. Taloford, what did Green take from Julius's grave?
I'll get back to you on it.
Okay.
But that's, you specifically want something from Julius's grave.
Yeah, something when digging up the bones, like digging up a hole in Julius's grave to put in the Jane Street ghost, or the wife rather.
It makes you wonder what's in there, because Julius obviously isn't. So
yes. So what is there?
Yeah, it's good.
What?
I think I would like the mirror with the reflection of the ghost, because I was so obsessed with like the spiral cracks in the mirrors and the clocks.
You can add that to your personal quarters. A mirror that always shows the reflection of the ghost, the St. James's Street ghost.
I'll take that jar of ectoplasm.
And Mr. Taloford, what do you want?
Yeah, I was going for that ectoplasm too.
Oh, only one person can have it, so you need to decide.
Oh, okay. But
Actually, I think that it makes more sense for Taloford to have something like that, especially since he was at the ritual. If that's the case, then I will ask Alicia, Mr. Quinn, what did Hank take from the house? Because we investigated there together.
I think you took like a child's stuffed animal from the attic, because there was some creepy baby shit going on up there. So
Nice. It could be like the wax doll, right? The one that Theodora gave to the priest might have just been a replica based off his story. This could be like the actual wax doll. Yeah.
and so I think Green found a beautiful decorative box full of ashes, but it's very unclear whose ashes they would be.
Good. I love it. Okay. Let's go to the Pinkerton Rewards. The rewards here are Taggart's 1848 Baby Dragoon. Sounds like Nelson might already have that. So if you want to keep that as your reward, you can. And you add the 1848 Baby Dragoon to your personal quarters. One of Taggart's side knives, and the side knife has an adder carved on the handle, if somebody wants that. Otherwise, a memento from the investigation, ask another hunter what it is, and add it to your personal quarters.
Maybe Hank gives me the knife
Nice.
when they come back.
Adder handle knife.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll take a memento and I will ask David what it is, because it's really his threat.
I'm going to take a memento also. Sorry, if Adrian wants to think about a memento for me for this thing I was in no way involved in.
I think I give Mr. Quinn the vial of rubies, partly to make amends for missing the dinner.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that Hank might have picked up let's see, from the suitcase of the Pinkerton, let's see, I have something in mind just to get this. Yeah, basically, let's see, does it make sense? Yes, a Book of Mormon.
Very nice. Good. The Mormons were Pinkertons in pretty decent numbers, so that's interesting. Good. Fabulous. Okay, I think it's everybody, right? Everybody got a reward. Yeah. Well, let's continue on with the Dawn phase. Dawn questions. This will be very fruitful for everyone. Did the hunters answer a question? Yes. Did the hunters resolve a threat? Yes. So everyone's getting 2 XP from those 2 at least. Mr. Nelson, did you get an echo in the night?
I believe I did. I called back to the, like, there's violence threatened upon you and you must go on a journey to avoid it. So basically giving those exact instructions to.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, it was really good. I love it. Did you use violence to solve a problem? Yes, the threat of it at least. Did you stick out in London society for all the wrong reasons? I don't think that came up.
Yeah, not this time.
Let's go to Green. Green, did you do an echo in the night? I think you did at the end with the devil card, but because I read Mr. Quinn in that, but I don't know if that's what you were intending.
Yeah, no, I thought rather that basically having, I don't think I actually did it, but the idea was kind of that maybe if I want to get rid of Julius, I have to do it myself. No, I think maybe not this time.
Okay. And did you subtly express sexual desire for your employer in the way you dress them or serve them?
I think in the beginning when I put on the bracelet to Mr. Quinn. Yeah.
Did you ensure your employer got credit for your triumphs?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think there were that many triumphs so far. That's the problem. But maybe, I mean, I tried to give credit to Mr. Quinn for basically handling Theodora after the mess at the party, even though Quinn or even though Green kind of took care of the body, but I don't think
there were no triumphs. Yeah,
there's just not enough triumphs yet.
Yeah,
for
none
Green,
of triumphs.
So.
Yeah. Mr. Quinn, did you experience an echo in the night?
Yeah, I tried to call back to the knife in the back with the handle of the flopper.
Good. Yeah. Did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone?
I showed the detective the masterwork. So
oh, that's true. You did show him the masterwork. It was a brief moment of vulnerability. Incredibly brief. It could have gone either way. I'm into it though. I don't think you did the last one, the avant-garde.
No, I didn't get to talk about I didn't make the opportunity to talk about what I was wearing today.
Yeah, that's fair. Mr. Taloford, did you get an echo in the night?
No, I don't think so.
And did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity? Yeah.
Yes.
And did you make love to a human in order to forget the darkness?
Yes.
Oh, who?
The priest in the beginning.
You all made out?
Oh, that was that was the gift I was giving him to let him forget.
Right over
after I gave him the wine. Yeah.
Well, if you all experienced it, then I'm into it.
That was my intention.
Okay, very good. Let's continue on. You can mark new Dawn questions now if you wish, or leave either or both the same. No playbook moves to worry about yet. It's just Janus Mask. I think that's just you, right, Mr. Nelson? Read your prompt and then tell us what's happening.
Yeah. So in the course of today's episode, I marked the first 3 of my Mask of the Past. So.
Very good. We're going to learn a lot about Mr. Nelson right now, so this is good.
No, I think especially like after dismissing the Pinkerton and like collecting his revolver, I'm actually going to say that maybe this revolver that he took from him, the 1848 Baby Dragoon, I think it's like the same model of revolver that his father carried. And so I'm going to sort of combine these 3 scenes into one, so I don't do 3 different flashbacks here. But I think like as he returns his revolver to its box that he keeps it in by his bedside, and sort of sets this new one like up against it to where he can see it. He's like, reclining in bed and having returned from the opium den. And he's just sort of thinking about, memories. And so like we see this revolver, and then like, we get that smash cut where now it's the revolver on his father's hip, and the two of them are riding on horseback together. He is on like a much smaller horse than his father. He's probably like 8 or 10 at this point, already begun riding lessons. And like he's riding on this, like these beautiful horses that they're on together. Like I think just the like the well brushing of their mane, the quality of their coat, the size, the power. I think it's obvious that these would be incredibly expensive horses. And they're riding on these through like a grove. And as they break through with that onto a field, you can see that it's going up, and you can now see the fence line around it. This is a massive property, and there is a huge house up on this hill, a plantation sort of home that they're riding towards, sort of showcasing the place that he grew up in. So that's the first question sort of handled. There's also showing what an arrogant and willful brat you were. So they're riding on these horses together. And I think he's like, there's like a little mini flashback within the flashback of him being told over and over again not to like gallop on his horse. Like he's not ready for it, like a trot at most. And he sees his father on this larger horse start to pull away. And so he's like, I'll do it. And he like jabs his spurs in the horse rears, because he doesn't even do that right. And it starts steaming full ahead, and he's totally lost control of the horse. And he's like thrown from it, and he tumbles along on the ground. And I don't think his father gets off of his horse. He just sort of like looks down, displeased with him. And it's like an attendant from the house who comes out and sees this and comes to pick him up. And I think he immediately is like, oh, it was the horse's fault. Like this horse disobeyed me. Like we should kill this one and get another. And his father's basically like, no, and goes inside. And so then we like flash forward a few years. He's now a young adult. And I think this is like, in between that time, I think the Civil War happened in the US. And I think he's like at a dinner, and his parents and many of their dinner guests are just talking about how upset they are that the South lost the war, and like how much the war like hurt their financial interests. And he just like is growing like obviously increasingly uncomfortable at this table. And when his father like points to him and has him chime in positively on something like outrageously racist that he just said, he just sort of like taps his mouth with a napkin, excuses himself, and leaves the table. I think those are the scenes we get.
Awesome, thank you. That concludes the session. Let's go to stars and wishes. Stars, things we enjoyed. Wishes, things we hope to see in the story next time. Who wants to kick off?
I want to give a star to the night phase, because that was not at all what I had planned when I wanted to go see the masterwork. And it was just like a really clear example of that the night belongs to you and not to us. Because I accomplished nothing that I wanted, but I actually really enjoyed that.
It's true. The night belongs to the keeper. Yep.
Building off of that, just star to the night phase in general, I think everybody had a really interesting scene in the night phase. Like it was just a very action-packed evening, and I really like how the game builds towards that and how that all came together in this session. I thought it was really, really cool. I loved everyone's scenes, all of the different things that were happening, all that was happening with the unseen. It was just great.
Yeah, it felt to me like this session felt like the episode 9 in an HBO show, right? Like the really like action-packed one at the end of the season, but not quite the end of the season. It kind of felt like that, right? I really, really love that. It almost feels like we're moving into like a new part of the story, which was just like capstoned even more so by the fact that we got so much backstory for Mr. Nelson, right? It's almost like we're, you know, the Mr. Nelson was like the star of this part, and we're learning something about Mr. Nelson, and we're kind of, you know, switching over. But it was really, really good overall. Yeah.
So on like small specific things, I really liked Green's solution for where to put the bones. I was just like, well, here's a grave that's empty. So I thought that was very clever.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, also Star to just like, I don't know, we all fucked off, and then just Green there holding down the fort and being like, I guess I'll actually finish this quieting ritual by putting these bones somewhere. Just felt very like on brand for the character.
Well, Mr. Taloford did it to save Green, but that's not really what Green knew. So, yeah, I like that. Also, I think I liked Mr. Quinn kind of not backing down when the inspector was kind of giving his speech about Scotland Yard will come by and so on. So no, we saw who was in charge. So I like that.
Yeah, I loved the turn in the garden to the like making them join in the flagellation. I thought that was just like such a great pivot. That was really good.
Yeah, there were so many for me there were so many like just intense scenes, like really good intense sensory scenes, erotic scenes, like the way Julius was sort of like abusing Green, the way D.I. Pettigrew was handled, that was really terrific. Even like subtly, something about Taggart like binding and tying up Nelson felt that way too to me, right? Even though it was like a kind of reversal ultimately. I thought that was really great. I just liked that part. It was very the between. It was very like kind of what the game wants to do. And yeah, I just thought it was all really, really interesting in my mind's eye, although I did not pick up on the thing with the priest, but apart from that little bit.
I will be more explicit next time.
Yes. you gotta really get in there, I think. Yeah. Any other stars or wishes?
My only wish is to use the cosmic passage, which was I was hoping to do tonight before Pettigrew interfered.
Ruined it, yeah. Yeah, you had that condition, had to push on that condition. So.
I'm generally just excited for new threats.
I have a wish for everyone to go ahead and use all your items so I can fix them up and give them back to you.
Yeah, you have like such a great excuse to just get those items used because Green can cycle them for you. So yeah, it's a very, very mechanically powerful thing. I hope
if I don't lose them,
yeah,
to some sort of coin dealer. But
yeah, exactly. My wish is I do hope we get to see Nelson have a vulnerable move scene. Not just because of like clearing conditions, which Nelson needs to do, but also just like because I'd like to see that scene. And yeah, I'm also my other wish is kind of with Dan's. I'm curious to see what the next threat is. I don't know yet, but I'll have fun going through it and figuring it out. So.
Yet at some point I want to go to church, but like mechanically I haven't really needed to. So
I would love to go to church with Taloford sometime. That sounds like a good time.
Indeed.
And just I want to see more of the vampire mystery and with Limehouse. I feel like we keep like just setting that one on the back burner, and then like weird things start coming out from it, and it'd be interesting to address it. So
yeah, hold that thought. Any other stars or wishes? Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up with an end of credits scene, a little stinger. Speaking of Limehouse, we are at the Dog and Whistle pub. which we've seen before. And the barman, Horsford, he looks up as a shadowy figure steps into the pub. And he nods and gets up and clears out the last couple of drunk sailors and that old woman who's always complaining about the cold. They all leave, leaving this shadowy figure in the pub by themselves. The shadowy figure steps into the lantern light, and we see that it's Julius, and he's holding up the silver coin between his fingers. And he says, "You can go ahead and come out. That's right." And we see a little boy crawling down the wall from the rafters of the pub. And this boy, pale, malnourished looking, steps forward toward Julius. He says, "You're drawn to it, aren't you? It's a curious thing. I don't know exactly why you should be. I'm sure it has something to do with your cursed blood. I'm drawn to it as well, but for different reasons. I was actually there when this coin and 29 others, just like it, were given to the great trader." Seems to have been a very important point in history. He says, "Here, it's yours." And he gives the coin to the little boy. He says, "The owner of this coin is waiting for you outside the pub in a carriage. She's going to whisk you away to your brand new life at Brathwaite Hall, where you'll be very well taken care of." And the boy nods, and he walks past Julius and out the pub and into the waiting carriage. The Limehouse Lurker is now a servant of the mastermind and no longer an active threat. So your threat slate's completely cleared. I'll see you next week.